Hello and welcome to the Just Mates podcast, where we aim to destigmatise men not speaking up about mental health. Remember to follow our social pages on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Just Mates Pod. You can listen to and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Anchor and Apple Podcast. All the links are provided in the description.
Hello and welcome to episode 4. Thanks for tuning in. Admittedly, we had another topic planned for this week, and I think, Naf, we had like a special guest potentially lined up as well. If I'm totally honest, it's been an incredibly hard week for me. Something horrific popped up towards the end of last week that had quite a significant impact on me. So that's why we decided to change the name of the topic to purpose. Purpose being, this is the whole premise of our podcast, and what we aim to do is reduce the or destigmatize men not being able to speak up about mental health, because suicide is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45, and admittedly I've never had anyone that I knew of who's committed suicide. And unfortunately, last week I had a friend who I played American football with, who sadly took his life. And Greg, I just want to offer my condolences to his family and his friends. I mean, I knew Greg from American football, playing back at home. I played with him for about probably just under 2 years, and he's just such a lively character, such a lovely guy, and I can't even imagine what anybody else is going through. I mean, I haven't seen Greg in about a year, but I always look forward to seeing him and going to practice with him. He always offered his support. I was going through a horrific time at one point, and he really offered to help me. You know, just such a kind, genuine spirit. And again, I just want to offer my condolences to his family and friends. But there's no further information that I've heard of apart from my team posting things, and I've got a discussion with my friend Joe today, hopefully to cover off a few things. But so that's pretty much the topic. Sorry, Naf, I've gone on here, but
no, that's all right. I think it's important we highlight that a lot of these things that happen are unexpected, are out of our control. However, I think going forward, the reason for these podcasts, we want people to listen in and think that if they're speaking up, we can speak up and we can prevent these things happening going forward. One of the stats that we've found is that 3 out of the 4 suicides are committed by men. And it just goes to show that you don't have to know someone personally, it will still be happening around the world. Yeah. And obviously it is traumatizing enough to know that suicides are happening, but when it's so close to home and in your circle, I think it's important we highlight the fact that we are here for support.
Yeah, it's so true. And I spoke to you about this yesterday. I think it was yesterday and the day before. I mean, I had a bad week anyway, but this is just the icing on the cake, really, which probably didn't really help my mental state at the time. But this whole thing, right, is he wasn't necessarily a close friend to me, right? He was just a nice, genuine guy that allowed me to speak to him about my own problems. And I just can't imagine how somebody close to him feels right now. You know, it's horrific. It's so horrific. And I went through a range of emotions, and I'm still going through a range of emotions now about how I feel about this. You know, I was in denial. I saw pictures uploaded and I was like, no, surely not, because he was such a lively guy, and you just wouldn't think anything of it at all.
Yeah.
I really want to respect his family and friends here when I say this, but I was in denial. I was angry at the fact that, you know, why does this have to happen? And obviously I got extremely upset. And then, you know, I kind of thought about it yesterday, and I thought, you know what? This is why we do what we do now. This is why we do it.
And I think it fuels our our energy to just carry on as well. And as you said, you had a rubbish week, and you've been through a lot in the past as well. But this just goes to show that no matter what's happened, we're still powering through. We're still sticking to our schedule of recording, doing this, all the promo work. We're still in the background. We might be upset, we might be emotionally drained, physically drained, but I think it's important we highlight the fact that we are carrying on.
Yeah.
And basically, things, like I said before, that happen are very unexpected. We had a potential guest lined up for this show. It was going to be about something completely different, but it's actually the perfect time to reflect on the fact that suicide, as you said, is the biggest killer of men under the age of 45. And I don't think people are absorbing that fact. And you do not have to know someone personally, or you don't have to hear about it from your own circle to know that this is happening. And you should still feel like you should be able to talk about your emotions. I think that's what's most important. A lot of people have an exterior of showing that they're fine, they're confident. Some people you may not even expect are going through depression and anxiety, but just a little hello, how are you can go a long way. And I think maybe no disrespect in this, but Greg maybe didn't feel like he could talk to anyone. Maybe he felt like he was the friendship counsellor, or he felt like he had to put up this exterior of being happy so that others weren't feeling unhappy. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of Gregs in this world. And I feel like maybe us two are Gregs of the world as well, where we want to look like we're happy and fine, but there's a lot of underlying emotions that we're going through.
Yeah, and just putting it from like another perspective, I won't name who it was, but I spoke to someone earlier this morning who had a loved one that did the same at a younger age, and as soon as I mentioned it, obviously you could tell that in his voice that it really hit home, and it'd be weird if it didn't. So sorry, if you're on that side, I mean, he told me a really important thing is after a long while you just can't blame yourself. If you're on the receiving end of it, you can't blame yourself for it, because I felt like I could have done something initially, and I felt angry at myself that I could have. Why didn't I put something out? There is something I could have done, but you just can't. You can't go down that route of thinking. No. And I don't want people to think that we're advertising mental health as something for our own sake. Like we're using suicide as something to promote us. We're not. Please don't think that. This is something that I have, like Naf said, you see a statistic and you don't really feel any emotion towards it because it's just words on a page. And I tell you now, this is something which haunts you, man. This is real. This is real. This is happening.
I think, maybe maybe putting it in a way that others can understand who maybe aren't going through depression or anxiety, or just generally want to be a bit more empathetic. If you think of it as a way of thinking of coronavirus, a lot of us probably haven't had any family members or friends that have had it. But that number of people dying is going up every day. So I think it's maybe 44,000 people now. I'm not sure exactly. But just because you don't know one of them 44,000 people, it doesn't mean that this tragedy isn't happening. And just like suicide, you may not know anyone that's been through it, a family member that's been through it, or a friend, or even a distant friend. But it is still happening, and there are people dying every single day and dying from suicide. And I think this is a time where we need to ensure that we are the support system for our friends and family. Yeah,
and to put like another thing on that Naf, I mean, where I go back to where I'm saying that this is real, and it might not have affected you in the past, or if it has, I'm really sorry. But if if it hasn't affected you, you have no idea that it could, or that this could happen to someone close to you. And I'm not trying to like put in like the fear aspect of it. I'm really not trying to, but you need to understand that we need to tell people to speak up, and this is why we do what we do. And to me, then there needs to be more done. And I don't know the solution apart from speak up and talk to people. I mean, Naf, I'm just going back away from this whole situation at the moment and deferring to how I felt in the week. And I won't go into the topic, but I felt so bad before this announcement that I was thinking, God, it would just be so much easier just to end it and just to leave it. And I'm missing that now. And I was thinking horrible thoughts. And I told you this, didn't I? And you really, really helped me out here. And then when this happened, it kind of snapped me back into reality and thinking, we're so fragile. We've only got one shot at this, and taking your own life it's a permanent solution to an often temporary problem. But when you're in that state of mind, it doesn't feel temporary. It feels like it's ongoing and it's consistent. And I'm so sorry if you feel like that. I'm so sorry, because I know how that feels, and because I've been in the past where I've tried to take my own life and stuff, and thankfully I didn't get away with it. And I know how that feels, and I would just want to relay this to everyone. If you are feeling like that, it's okay, and you can speak up, and you can speak to anyone. Hell, you can message me, you can message Naf, you can message our channels. We just want to help. It doesn't have to be a psychiatrist, although that will help. Definitely. It doesn't have to be medication, although that will potentially help. But just the action of doing something and speaking up and benefiting yourself is so important. Sorry, Naf, I've gone on a tangent.
No, I think what you've said is really important, because around us a lot of us will probably have friends that have actually been through what you've been through, Sam, and had them same thoughts, but none of us know. And I think that's actually, you mentioned not instilling fear, but we should be scared that we are not helping our friends. And I'm not saying we should be burdened with it. It should not feel like a burden, but we should be checking up on people. And the same goes for them. People should be checking up on us. Like, we are obviously at the moment, I don't know if you'd call us an advocate or an activist for mental health, but we are trying to be a support system. So if anybody does want to speak to us, our DMs are open. And even if you just want to talk about anything general, it doesn't have to be mental health related. Anything that might take your mind off things, we're here, aren't we, Sam?
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. And it's just heartbreaking that people are going through these emotions and feel like they can't talk to anyone.
Yeah. And yeah, you summarized it really, really well there, mate. But if you are feeling like this, don't feel guilty, and just please don't feel like you're the only one, because I know when you're in that state of mind that things feel so horrific that you're the only one in that position, that you feel like that. Sorry. And I really tell you that that's just not the case.
No,
it's really not. And it feels like you're in a bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you come out of that bubble, life is more clear. And I hate to use this analogy, but it is so true. It's kind of, it's a bit cheesy, but it's like a phoenix. When a phoenix, if you've ever watched anything to do with a phoenix kind of sheds its feathers, burns itself off, and then there's a rebirth at the end of the phoenix again. And that's how it is. You've got to kind of burn off the dead wood and start bettering yourself. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going off into it.
No, I think we need to make these references so maybe people can understand a bit clearer. I wanted to say, I think I told you this yesterday. Was it yesterday? I was out skipping in a park the other day, and one of my school friends, who I don't talk to often, I don't see them very often, I don't see them at all really, but obviously they're one of them friends you can talk to and it's all fine. And he bumped into me, he saw me from a distance, and he was like, "Oh, Nafees, it's you." And obviously he approached me, and we just got talking, and we were just talking about life in general. Like, I was asking how he is. He's got a little boy and stuff. And I won't mention a name, but he went off into like a little. He was venting to me about his problems, and obviously I was there to listen to him. I was glad I was there. So anyway, cut a long story short, I was there for him. We walked for a bit. He talked things out. I gave him some advice, and later on that night, I checked up on him again, like, because he said that he was having some dark thoughts as well. And anyway, I checked up on him, and one of the messages that he sent, and it really, I don't know, maybe. You could say it just made me feel good that he'd said this and I'd done something to help.
Yeah.
But he said that I really talked him off of a ledge, and he thanks God that God put me in that park, and that just goes to show that literally just one thing can change someone's mind, and someone could be going through hell, be ready to commit this act of suicide, and you just messaging them saying, "Oh, hello," or like, "How are you?" or "You're right, I haven't spoken to you in a while," that could literally talk them out of it. Just one message.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be anything deep. It's just
a
hello, which really helps. And you and me both have been in experiences. I mean, I think you came to me yesterday with something that was affecting you. I won't go into what it was, and I gave you a little bit of advice. And there's that whole little shift in the mindset is so helpful to know that people know what you're going through. And I
think we are also ourselves. I tweeted yesterday saying that we give out advice, we know what we're talking about, and we tell people what we think they should do. But when it comes to taking our own advice, we are our own worst enemy. And we won't listen. And some of the things you advised me yesterday, you mentioned some things, and it was so nice to hear from someone else rather than me being the counsellor or the psychiatrist for my friends. Or, it's just nice hearing that back, even though you already know it. Because we've probably told ourselves these things already, but we just don't like to listen to ourselves.
Yeah, and you kind of look, if you're anybody like me, you kind of look for reassurance into for somebody else to, because sometimes when you make certain thoughts or accusations or anything, you kind of think, well, maybe I'm wrong here. And as soon as you start to question yourself, you're thinking, is this the right method? Am I going about this right? And just kind of getting that perspective from somebody else and to tell you, you are right, or some cases you are wrong, I would do it this way, is really helpful and helps you rationalize the entire situation.
Exactly. I think you said before about being in a bubble. I think it's about stepping back and realizing that until you come out of this bubble, you cannot move forward. You're just sidestepping. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to move forward. And I'm not trying to disregard anyone's problems. There are things that stay with us a long time, and some things you can't forget. But dwelling on things, yes, it's good for reflection sometimes. Time to time, you should think about things, but you need to move forward in your life. You need to be positive and think that there's good things to come.
Yeah, no, well put, Naf. Well put. I think this is a good time. I think we were going to maybe discuss this last week, but we didn't really get enough time. We've started I think it's is it GoFundMe or something, or a fundraising page?
Just Giving page.
That's it. Sorry. It's for a campaign against living miserably, which is referred to as CALM, which is a registered charity based in I think it's in headquarters in London, UK, but its purpose is suicide prevention. So it's a free, confidential, and anonymous helpline. I believe they offer web chat services to offer help, advice, and information to anyone struggling or in a crisis. So it's like Samaritans, but for the purpose of, admittedly, this is where I got my statistic about men committing suicide, and we just thought that this is the right charity. I mean, there's loads of other charities that offer something very similar, and which is great, but this is the starting point, really. And I think I got a statistic from them, which is £8 can. I don't really want to sound like an advertisement, but £8 can potentially save a life. So, and we put the fundraising amount to 10k. So I think I figured out that there could be above 1,000, 1,200 lives saved just by getting to that figure. So we'd really appreciate it if you could help fundraise there, because I've just been affected by this, and this is something which we really, really need to sort out immediately.
And I think that's important to mention, that this is none of what we are doing, even this Just Giving page, these podcasts, the YouTube, the Spotify, anything. This isn't for self-gain. We aren't trying to get anything ourselves from this. We're not trying to sell a product. We genuinely want to share our experiences and how we think about things, and we want to help people. And if we help at least one person, I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, well put, mate. Well put.
I think the word, I think we discussed, didn't we, just before we started this, that what should we call this episode, and obviously we concluded with the word purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I had another idea of using the word suicide, and maybe that was insensitive to some. Maybe that could come across as a bit of aggressive or violent, but that word suicide is a real thing. And maybe you were right, actually, that we shouldn't use that as the name of the topic of the podcast, because that can trigger people. But it's happening, and that is the point of this episode particularly. We are trying to raise awareness that we want to prevent this from happening. And I think we haven't already, but I think we will be adding suicide prevention hotline numbers into our descriptions. And I think it's important that some of them hotlines that you can ring, you don't have to tell them that you're feeling suicidal or you're feeling down. You can just talk to them generally, and they will talk you out of a bad spot.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too much into my experience, but I've used those hotlines before, and those people are saints, mate. They are unbelievable.
Yeah.
You are 100% right. It doesn't. You don't have to be on the brink of doing something. They're there to help at the end of the day for anything. And I don't want to just say it's calm that you can raise money for as the purpose. You can raise money for loads of other charities like Mind, which is a really good charity. Just do something. And if you look at the whole premise of why we haven't really addressed this. We haven't addressed this at all. So if you look at our logo, it's called Just Mates. I mean, there's two parts to this, and Naf designed it beautifully. But the J in Just is the semicolon logo, which is obviously to raise awareness of mental health. I got this tattooed on my forearm a good couple of years ago now because of a stint I went through, and it's to kind of show that you're on to the next chapter, and it's kind of to show that, like I've said with the Phoenixes, everything's going to be okay, and you survived something which was really, really impactful, and that's what we kind of wanted to represent. And the reason we called it Just Mates is because, yeah, we are just mates, but you got to think that, just by talking to someone at the end of the day, and just being a friend with someone can help save a life.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but
no, I think you're completely right. When you befriend someone in some situations, a new friendship could be a lifeline for someone. So just like I said, like I bumped into my friend at the park, and he he felt like I stopped him from doing something. Just like that, a friendship of just a random stranger messaging you saying hello could lead to a friendship that might have saved their life or saved them from an episode of depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's important. You just reaching out to people. You don't even have to be best friends with someone to be able to save their lives. You can literally just be a stranger.
Yeah, and it's really amazing what you did there, mate, and what we're doing here. And to go back to the point about the semicolon, I think I kind of explained it correct, but the semicolon is used when an author, which is you, essentially could have chosen to end their sentence, but chose not to. And the author, which is you, obviously, and the sentence is your life. So this is the whole premise of why we put that in there, is to help people not think, this is it, and, and to not end their life. And we are that bridge to help you, to help guide you and support you, and we're all ears. We're here to help. Sorry, I'm going on here. I'm a bit mess, but
no. As well, I wanted to say that when we do hear of going back to suicide, when we do hear about things like this happening, some people just assume, well, maybe it's an instant thing, like one day, like he felt like this and he or she just thought, oh, that's it. But it's not. It's genuinely usually a build-up of things, background things, debt, personal things, relationships, friendships, bullying. There's so many things that are a factor of it. And I was just talking yesterday, and my mum made this perfect analogy, and we were just talking about something else. And so, for example, if you imagine there's a bucket, right, and every day you put a splash of water in there. So every day that you put that splash of water, you think, oh, it's just a tiny bit of water, isn't it? Like, I'm not adding much to this. And every day for a good year, you keep putting a splash of water in this bucket. When it comes to the end of the year, it's not just going to be a small amount. That bucket is going to be filled up. So just like these traumas that people go through, the things that people go through, adds up every single day. And at some point, people think that I've had enough. Mm-hmm. And now what we are here for is to empty that bucket, and we want to be there for people, and we want to allow others to feel like they can be there for their friends. Just a simple checkup can empty it.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant.
So I think that's what we need to do. We need to relieve some stress and depression from others. And in no way am I saying that we ourselves are perfect or that we're not going through stuff, but I genuinely feel a lot better when I talk to people that and I'm helping them. It makes me feel better, and it makes me forget about my own problems. And just like us, we've been discussing things like things we're going through. I've helped you, you've helped me, and we've come out at the better end.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, mate. So we've talked about the whole talking aspect and opening up, and that's our purpose. But there's something that we also should address here, and for a long time when I was going through stuff, I didn't really... This is from my experience. I was on medication. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I was on medication for depression and anxiety for when I was at university for a year. And I didn't really find that it worked. And I kind of moved up and down the dosages, and it kind of made me feel sick. And when you take medication, some people can react quite badly to it. So for me, I felt quite sick, quite nauseous, and it elevated my symptoms of depression and anxiety quite significantly. So I kind of went off of it and did some other therapy. But if you're ignoring medication, full stop, you really need to rethink your strategy and how you're going to deal with things, because you can't help people. Because it could be just a chemical. I hate using the term chemical imbalance because people have different arguments, but it could be just something as simple as that. I mean, you don't know things don't work until you try them.
No.
And I've got friends that have been on medication. I mean, so a lot of the time that it's environmental. In that case, then medication won't work. But you don't know
until you try it.
You can't help these people if they
Not helping themselves.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, mate.
No, I was going to say again, that's another issue is to these people who are suffering from depression and are advised to take medication. The word medicine, the word tablets is another stigma to them that thinks, oh, well, is there something wrong with me? Or why am I taking these? Like, I don't want to take these. Like, I shouldn't be able to rely on these. But a lot of the time, them tablets are what's keeping them sane. Mm-hmm. So I've got a friend, I won't mention who, that takes them, and they, for a while, when they started taking them, they stopped taking them, and there was a good 2 to 3 weeks when they kept having panic attacks and struggling, and that was because they stopped taking them tablets. As soon as they realised that them tablets were helping them, they started taking them again, and now very rarely do they have panic attacks and have any of these negative episodes. So I think another thing we need to highlight is if the doctor is recommending something, there's a reason behind it. Sometimes they can not be as effective, but more time than not, they're there for a reason. And yes, you shouldn't become reliant on them, but they're there to help.
Yeah, and I'd like to put it in. This is from a book I read a little while ago, and it kind of really hit home. If your dog was ill, if your cat was ill, if any of your pets were ill, your vet said you have to give it medication or this will happen to it or it will die, I can guarantee you'd give your pet the medication. So why would you think about not giving yourself some medication?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you need to, at the end of the day, you need to care about yourself, and a lot of people don't. And admittedly, like myself, I didn't take medication for a bit because I thought, I didn't really think about it in that aspect. You've got to look after yourself, and you've got to do whatever it takes, because at the end of the day, it's you. And if you're not happy, and if you're not doing what it takes to support yourself, in effect, you might. I don't want to pin blames on people, but you might start affecting other people, and you need to start really looking after yourself. So keep that in mind.
Self-care is definitely important, and I think it's horrible, but a lot of these people don't feel like they, like I said, like the point of this, they don't feel like they can tell anyone how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. So all of these things are building up, and they're not looking after themselves, and then you do become that doom and gloom of the group. And it's horrible to say, but friends are scared of being around that kind of person because they don't want to be down themselves. So often there's this feeling of neglect, and then because you start saying no to going out to some places with your friends, people stop asking you to go out and stuff, and then like I said, there's that feeling of neglect, and then that person feels left out. And instead of approaching your friend that's going through this, there are signs to this. Instead of approaching them, you're leaving them to suffer. And I'm not saying it's your friend's responsibilities to look after you, but isn't that what friends are for?
Yeah. And just getting back to this is a really good point, mate. And just going back to this point about medication and stuff and looking after yourself and trying to better yourself. If you're not going to do it for yourself, just do it for your friends and family. Do it for people that know it and know you and love you, because that's really important. So, yeah,
exactly. I think as well, one of the last points I want to make is this is I've seen so many cases of this. A lot of these people that are suffering with these issues, they look confident, they look happy, just like all these. There's a number of comedians that have committed suicide or taken their own life, and you would never have thought that these people are feeling that way.
Yeah.
So an exterior of someone is not a reflection of how they're feeling. There are so many times that myself, and probably you as well, we've talked about this at work as well when we were there, that we put up this act of being happy for other people because that's how people like to see us, and we like to be that, like, that infectious kind of like personality, I guess. But we come home from doing that all day, of being a happy person, and we feel like we feel drained, don't we? And I think it's important you don't just look at the outside of someone and assume they're all fine. Like I said, and we've said before, a simple hello, how are you, can go a long way.
Yeah, and although from my experience and stuff, I mean, I don't really want to go too much into it, but you really have to kind of focus and think, what are the warning signs? I mean, a lot of the time, a lot of the time there isn't. Don't feel guilty that you haven't picked up on any warning signs, but just really pay attention to things such as, I'm looking at here from save.org, NAF. So a couple of them, and we'll put the link in the description here, but and some of the signs are, if the person is not sleeping enough, if they're withdrawing or feeling isolated, if they've got mood swings, if they're distancing themselves, increasing their use of drugs, if they've recently had like a relationship issue or financial loss, anything that is essentially negative that you can pick up on, please, for the love of God, just reach out and, like Naf said, just say hello, because it could go a long way. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And these warning signs you mentioned don't have to be obvious. It doesn't have to be that person screaming, I'm depressed. It, like I said, it's just a case of them saying no to every time them going out. There's a reason behind that. A lot of the time people are going through things and they feel like they don't want to be that mood killer, but just by asking someone, oh, why aren't you going out recently? Instead of having to go at them or feeling like, oh, they don't want to be with us, that just check up on them, ask them what's wrong, and that will probably help them, like, in the long run. And these warning signs, like you said, aren't obvious. They're never obvious. But there are so many underlying issues with people that we need to just ask someone, how are you? And I promise you that person will feel so relieved that somebody cares enough to ask.
Yeah, and just to put it from my point of view, and if I didn't have the support from you, Naf, this week, I would be in a worse state. So I personally thank you on this, and I thank you for that anyway. But just that interaction and just talking things through, it makes life so much easier.
It does, and same goes for you. Like, I've spoken to you about things and going back and forth. I even said this to you. Like, I'm always the counsellor of my friends. Usually, like, I talk to them about their problems, and I don't like talking about things myself. So, talking to you about it and you giving me a full on, like, advice about things, it makes you look at things different, and it makes you realize that I don't have to be the voice all the time. I can listen to other people, and a lot of the time just take other people's advice, take your own advice, and just look out for yourself. Self-care is so important.
Yeah, that's good. I think we've covered pretty much everything today, and we kind of wanted to keep this one short and offer our condolences to Greg and his family and friends and everybody who's been affected. And if you've recently been through what I've been through, or what Greg's family have been through, then I'm really sorry. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, and everything's worth living. And you just please try and see positivity.
Yeah, definitely. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Whether you can see that or not, keep going and you'll find that light.
Yeah. All right, mate. Cool. We'll end it there. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I've been Nafees.
And I've been Sam.
Also, make sure to, if you are listening on YouTube, just like and subscribe to our content. We will be uploading, obviously, at the moment every Friday. So if you do like these podcasts, you feel like they're helping, please like and subscribe. Check us out on Spotify and Anchor. And if you have any suggestions of topics you think we should cover, please just let us know on our socials. The links will be in the description. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, and thank you for everyone and your feedback, because that helps us get better at the end of the day, even if it's harsh criticism. We need more of that. So.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, we've been Just Mates. I'll see you later.
Yeah, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.